Hi guys, I'm going to have
Dr. Arwa, for your practical presentation with all the figures and charts you shared with us. Very interesting. And now to the last presenter before the break, Mr. Muhammad Hussain, for this topic for broadening the horizon of eligible learners' proficiency, pursuits, and the productive skills. Mr. Hussain, Mr. Muhammad, could you take me?
Yeah, I'm with you. I would prefer my camera on. Could you please do it from your side? It seems like there is something not on from your side.
Yeah, can you share your slides?
Sure. Yes. I'm going to share it right away. Yeah. It's there, right?
Yes. Presentation mode.
So I would appreciate if my camera is on. Will it be possible?
Well, you can try. You can turn your camera on.
Seems like share video. It's not letting me even have the preview. It seems like it requires something. So by the time you fix it, I'm going to get the slideshow on.
Okay. Well, you may start now.
So I don't see the camera on. Still, please keep trying. If it happens, it would be great for me. It would be better for me to concentrate on the things. Anyway, are you going to do some introduction thing, or should I jump in?
You can start right away.
Okay. My topic that hovers around how to enhance learners' proficiency pursuits, especially in the production skill. I would go into some real life situations where we can maximize proficiency for our students in our constrained setup in our classrooms. So broadly speaking, my today's agenda involves communicative language teaching, some principles so far that have been held and so far that haven't worked so successfully as anticipated or expected. Also include some listening speaking skills that's form part of the 4 basic skills of ELT English language communicative competence, and how we gain more competence in the communication through language learning inside the class and outside the class. Also talk about some methodologies and procedures so far have been into practice and which have worked or hasn't worked. Actually, this is a talk about 50 years of the journey of this theory, a better approach. In fact, it's not a theory per se, but it's an approach where we tweak our ways of treating and also trying to intervene as a teacher, as a facilitator, as an introducer. I mean, our role as a teacher gets modified primarily because it's our learners who need the language to practice, not we. So obviously we aim for reducing our talking time in the class and try to hand over the saddle to our learners with their own belief systems, social background, and we remain at the front, but taking sides. So as we see the ethnography of communication, and so far the 50 years of its making and the worldwide practices, because this was heralded as the panacea, as the only viable option to get rid of those audiolingual practices held so far, Suggestopedia and all, which hadn't worked. In fact, too much of grammar input, too much of rote learning that we have been depending upon. According to Himes, culture is the knowledge which members in a community share, and it is the basis of behaviors, which brings to behavior certain meaning. So it's the meaning making that is being aimed at in all circumstances. And Himes has introduced several concepts as basic units for ethnography study of communication. It could be a communication event like festivals or social cultural gatherings. It could be a communication act like pantomime, gestures, postures, verbal and non-verbal. Also a communication situation where we need to go for problem solving. So the whole idea is centered around how we get the expertise for our learners to resolve the issues in the real life situations. This Del Himes, he was the biggest proponent, in fact, and actually he's the one who began. And his first paper was published around before actually 70, 2-3 years earlier in New York, and he set the ball rolling because he said that speaking model should inculcate and should be set up in this scenario. You can see here the setting, scene. Then we have participants. The participants could be in the background of multicultural, ethnographic, across the border. And participants can be of varying ages. It could be adult learners with whole loads of predominance of the first language interference. And also some of the instrumentalities, like the kind of strategies that we adopt to maximize the participation and the involvement. So norms, interactions, and interpretations could vary according to the cultural, socio-cultural aspects. So he emphasized upon the point that we need to tailor our curriculum and syllabus. In fact, there was a new move in the whole of Europe post wars, two wars, because the whole world felt the need to have a functional, notional language. It's not denotational or grammatically fixed structure, rigid structures per se, but in fact, we needed a functional language that could work in most of the possible scenario. And the
Hamad, sorry to interrupt you. Are you still on the first page?
You mean the slide? You mean the slide?
The slides. It's still on the first one.
Oh, okay. I mean, do you see the slide moving now? I'm using PowerPoint. Do you see the slide moving?
We see the no.
No, not yet. Yeah. Okay. So that means that I'm using this slide. Now do you see the slide move? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So actually, I'm using the this Google slide. In fact, I have it in PowerPoint. So in fact, I'm setting the background for the history of it, how it evolved into a much bigger principle, reforms and theories. You'll be laughing at this proverb: "A fool is known by his speech, and a wise man by silence." But our job is exactly opposite. In fact, we have to let our learners speak as much as possible in the real life situations, problem solving, because their communication is what that would help them withstand in the challenges of the actual life situations. So we need not just information and consuming it won't make them wise. Actually, what will make them wise will be applying. An application will come inside the classroom and outside the classroom both. So applying will actually involve a whole loads of strategizing and our approach towards and especially in this digital world where we have loads of newer things coming. I mean, we're no more in the world of textbooks, and we have synchronous as asynchronous world. I mean, I'm showing you the slide where you see the whole electronic volumes literature collections, where we have all kinds of involvement with the language, the speaking or writing, productive or receptive, productive. So we are made to write, narratives. Also, we are made to write, not the dialogues in the form of, but also a kind of form filling, a report filling, and we need to do the actual language usage in the real sense, where we have to use it to the best possible manner. So these are some of the samples, some of the usage of how we need to use the language in the real world. Now I want some of you guys to come up with some of the areas where our students fumble or stagger, and they really don't they shy away. The affective filters needs to be lowered, and they're not confident, because if you see this here, 2% of the mindset of the entire either it's learners, entire population, we are pigeonized. We're in the cages, So our classroom may appear to be like this beautiful scenario where we have all green, but our classrooms are like this, constricted, and we don't find our students confident, exploring new things, insecure. We find being like their comfort zone. They won't love to come out of the comfort zone, and many times they try hard getting our students, learners, get involved in the actual production stage, but most of the time they shy away from there, probably because they feel that they might commit errors, that the mistakes will land them in trouble, and they will be laughed at. So just getting by with the kind of rote learning or preparing for exam for the score's sake, they use the language. Although they are much advanced when they talk in Arabic, and the first language, any one of the learners, first language, they're so proficient, they're so eloquent. In fact, I'm surprised that when it comes to using second language, they always play safe. They delay, and if I call anyone to come up on the stage, everyone will be shy, and there will be procrastination, and it's only this language for survival. Of course, we need the language for survival, but not to the barest minimum that we cannot actually go to the real world, and then we don't act as if we have learned the language in the natural atmosphere. So what is needed is the phobia that we have. There is a phobia. It's called. I would love someone if he comes up with this phobia. And these are the symptoms of that phobia: increased blood pressure, increased perspiration, dry mouth, nausea. So in all learners categories, we have extroverts, we have ambiverts, we have actually introverts, the shy away. There's someone who always takes the lead, the dominant people, and there are someone they can manage both ways, like a good juggler. So this glossophobia actually is a symptom. It's a disease. It's not a disease per se, but it's a fear of speaking in the public or on stage and among others. Not able to speak in front of the general people. So we need to prepare our students. We have to mold them, and we have to talk to them in their heads, in the language they understand. We can downgrade our language, this target language, we can help them, repose their confidence in, and we can ask them to use the language in smaller bits first with gap filling exercises, role playing. We can give them situations where they have to come up with them. It's like need-based analysis we can do, and they have to blurt out. There's no way out. So we can give them projects, collaborative projects, where they can use the technology, whether it's a Google form or whether it's other kinds of collaborative platforms where they can actually come up with some of the write-up, they come up with their own ideas, they can come with the decision-making process. It can also help them revive or hone their critical thinking ability. And that's what is really required in this time of AI integrated world, where we cannot sit alone and talk to ourselves and talk to in the jargons. And actually we need some amount of fluency and accuracy, and we need to target both of them, in fact. And if we sacrifice one for the other, we're going to be at a loss, because accuracy is required for the sake of scoring higher in the grades. And we are not going to spare them for making mistakes, some errors. But we cannot sacrifice fluency for the sake of accuracy, depending on our objectives. In fact, most of the people or learners worldwide, they use the language, English language especially, because this is a cementing force and transformational language. So we're not teaching language as a content, in fact. Actually, English is not a subject at all. We are teaching English to let them learn other subjects. So what we need them to master is not the English per se, itself. In fact, we need to supply them or provide them with the kind of input that they would be actually using in their task completion, or whether it's in their exam and assessment thing. So we need to relook at their needs. In fact, if we go by their needs, we will be able to cater to them in a much better way than we are doing now. In fact, some of the shy, reticent classes, learners and low achievers, they need loads of incentivizing, lots of teachers' intervention in the right positive manner, not as domineering or overwhelming presence of the teacher, where the children don't even converse with the other students. In fact, I have been hearing a lot about this historical journey of like Dell, Chimes, and this is a timeline of how this approach, in fact I would never call it a theory, this is an approach, one way of looking at language learning through social linguistic perspective. And these are the luminaries of who came up with it. And in fact, they advanced this theory of this approach towards gaining its currency. Starting with Chomsky in 1970, then we have Marshall Holliday, then we, of course, Del High-Amsa, because he's the first one to deliberate upon that. It's a communicative competence that has to be aimed at. And we may be an expert at the linguistics, we may be experts at the functional aspects of but when it comes to notional aspect of the language, we need to put it in the practice, because it's not only the learners who are the users. So it has to be user friendly. It doesn't have to be those who are prescribed them in the textbook. And although most of the textbook designers, they still have them in the mind. The same, because whether we teach grammar inductively, deductively, grammar has to be there. Without grammar, we can never do it. So the grammar thing has to be, dealt with as a subsistence level, where they won't be taught most of the time tenses and grammatical rules, and we don't have to. So there has been a shift. It's from Jeremy Harmer to opposing views in the feasibility of implementing CLT in the EFL context, because the whole world has adopted this, and they have switched over to from the earlier practices of suggestopedia or humanistic approach, or some kind of this is called total physical response, where you're made to act as if you are robotics, and you are so This EFL context, some researchers like these two have preferred the significance of learners' needs and adoption of traditional methods of language teaching, because we don't have to forgo the traditional method. In fact, we have to incorporate and latch on those traditional methods with the new role plays, pair works and group works, and because it's supposed that, and not necessarily always true, it's supposed that we accord more chances to us, to learners, to use their languages in the actual scenario with problem solving exercises. It can be gap filling, or can be impersonating people. It could be police and criminal. It could be a doctor and patient. It could be like you're at the airport, you lost your baggage. Now, how are you going to claim your baggage from the authorities? How are you going to get the voucher for? So the actual life throws altogether different sets of challenges in our life. So we need to negotiate the meaning in the real context, not in the make-believe world where we are made to only use the language for the sake of language, where we just score and we get the certificate. And so there are four aspects which need to, it's a grammatical and a scores marker, and social linguistic aspect is predominant because most of the language revolves around our non-verbal aspect of things. I guess verbal could be only 7 to 10%. Actually, 90% of the aspect of our delivery or communication lies on our gestures and postures. And the functions of languages is achieved only through social rules of language and language engagement. There are strategies where we can be more expressive if we use our body language than the verbal aspects of the things. So what I'm trying to mean is that it's more about getting to know how to fit in and how to transfer the information. Like listening itself is not a passive exercise. In fact, when we listen, we code, decode, we transmit, we bring our own experiential learning. The key word to this CLT, community competence, is, I'm convinced that it's all about your experiential learning, that you learn through doing, by taking control of the things, it's like throw the baby in the water and forget about whether the baby comes out alive or comes out as a swimmer. So we need to take the risk. So the CLT, this competence, the most of the time, it's all about risk taking. If you don't take the risk of coming up with as a user, the right user, as a writing, whether it comes to writing, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to delivery of the language in any setup, any form. So we need to focus on inclusion of incorporations of some of the area like role play. We can include debates, we can have dramatic monologues, we can also have radio drama, social media things. It's no wonder if we can include songs and dance sequences or jazz chants and ELT raps. And we could have a chain of stories, where someone comes with one sentence, the next comes with the filler, the next sentence, and this, and every child should be allowed to have his own ending. It could be a bizarre ending of the story, but the story has to be ended in an original, with the idea of your own, where you want the story to end, and everyone will arrive at the destination in his or own, possible meaningful ways. Yes, Abdullah, chain of stories is a great idea where we begin with like once upon a time. This is very simple, that we can simply say, okay, once upon a time. Now the guy, everybody, he has to think of what happened once upon a time. When I was a child, something like this. If you come up with something and give some of the ideas in the cut and form dried methods, the child is going to jerk his head. He's going to pop up something from his head. Originally, in fact, it's not that the child will Google it, and there's no Googling on it. Whatever you're looking for information, Google it inside your head. You don't Google it on Google actually. So encourage the use of the authentic language in a meaningful context. I'm seeing this when you go to the fish market, you need to buy the fish. You don't Google it, which fish to buy, how much to buy, and when to buy, and how to negotiate, and how to go for the price drop. So authentic language in the real life settings, that's the magic. In fact, the best scenario would have been if you could bring the world to the class. And is it possible? Yes, sometimes yes, we can bring the realia, but we cannot bring the smelly fish to the classroom. So bringing realia to the classroom, that could be one idea of how the students can identify their life and their own concerns. Yeah, we need to develop some sort of strategies where we can minimum subsistence on some of the objects. We can bring them as a realia. We can take them out. If we would take the class outside to the outside the world in the real setting, that would be the biggest advantage for the learners, because they would have been pitted against all the odds and challenges that we actually are faced with. And as a second language learner, I'm talking about myself. I may also have the similar psychic problems and deficiency that our learners have. So we have been combating it whole life, and in fact I spent whole life combating this kind of affective filter, this comfort zone and all that. So, and our learners are no exception to it. We human beings are born with, certain innateness for learning language in certain style. So whatever approach or theory we come up with, that won't work as long as it's not in commensurate with the correct language learning methodologies. So what I'm trying to tell is that we must go for all kinds of real life scenarios where we have our minimum interference in the full picture of, and we don't need to intervene so much that the listeners gets intimidated. Look at this good speaking listening character. What are the good speakers? Good speakers speak in a style and vocabulary that everyone understand. Good speaker talks clearly, and see what we're talking about, that 7% only is overall message or communication words. Actually the whole thing comes on 55% of our overall messages communicated through body language. So the three elements that supports our right communication and communication competence is not just the grammar and nitty-gritties and certain rules. So meaningful learning provided realistic context to use the language thought to lead a better long-term retention. What stays with our life is not rote learning. It's actually, we can go for controlled, structured, partly teacher-led, also some sort of rehearsed interactions. But it has to be lifelike, fully free interaction in a warm and appreciative. The key is warm and appreciative. In fact, profile a good speaker will be like he has a lots of enthusiasm. He speaks so in a gentle and loud enough tone to be heard. He is not so these are the too many, these are the impediments, the handicap that our students usually face. I'm sure that you guys also suffer from this. Like strong students usually dominate conversation. Why? Because the affective filter is lower, because he has more confidence. My students seem unmotivated speaking tasks. Because all the speaking tasks in our textbooks, they are out of the world, they are far removed from our actual world, that we are facing in the real life situation. They are too conscious about mistakes and afraid to talk. So grammatical errors, we always keep reminding that you guys are making subject agreement and s and singular plural, and all life I have been doing that. Well, that has proven detrimental. Actually, students don't even know where to start when it comes to talking, and they feel shy. Whatever is to be blurted out, they keep shy of that. So it's our job to intervene, to engage them, to create activities which are really friendly for them. It may be culturally appropriate. It can be some quizzes, can be English language cinema nights. We don't mind if we allow them to watch movies or listen to radio. Actually, podcasts are great ways of doing great on listening and listening exercise. So two directions, current methodology. Actually, it can be processed. It can be produced based on approaches. It can be content-based, task-based. Give them tasks in the Google form. Ask them to collaborate in the real life, and ask them to be, actually engage in their conversations, and So here is the view of competence that you know our Himes and others have been touting at and have been actually impressing upon. So the real world looks like this. Actually, in real world, we have to talk to the natives, non-native speakers, authentic environment, unlimited practice opportunities, and student chooses everything. But in the classroom, we choose everything. We tailor them. We actually play the dominant scene. We are no more as a facilitator or actually unlimited rewards in the real world. If a student speaks a good language, I mean, even one sentence confidently, he appears to be so confident inside, you know, it's their internal intrinsic motivation. But we need to expose them to the real life world situations. Actually, we are surrounded by internet things now. We need to chat. We need to go for like virtual classroom. We need to listen to music and lyrics. We need to go to real world in books which are digitized now. We're not reading anymore in the text forms. So we need to negotiate and encode our own learning experiences, and that's the experiential learning that comes from language one. And language one is really it's an asset. We need not repudiate it or just dislodge that this is language one interference will mar the prospects of learning language. No way. Actually, half the world is learning the language through the incorporation of the experiential learning in the L1. So L1 is not a taboo to use in the classrooms as long as it's productive and it's conducive and it helps the language learners to put their inner input into output. So the basic principles of language competence and CLT lies in the use of realia. It lies in the focus on functional communicative competence, not the jargons, the nitty-gritties, or the bits and pieces of the grammar. The use of real life situations that necessitate communication. Communication is elicited by needs. Actually, it's need-based theory and partners information gaps. So once you come up with the gaps, your partner will blurt out something. That is the real input. Whatever comes to your head and you jerk it out and you try to fix the things on it, because there are not multiple possibilities all the time, all the gap fillings. So give priority to fluency apart from accuracy. Of course, we aim for accuracy, but yes, it seems like I'm coming to the closing time. Is it? How much time I'm left with, actually?
Hussein, could you wrap up, please?
Okay, it's time to wrap up. All right, so I actually wanted to show you some of the videos here, but it seems like we don't have much time. Probably if I could. The role of instructional material is paramount, and in fact, we need to support communicative approaches to language teaching. Material as a way of classroom interactions, promote communicative language use. So don't teach, involve. That's the whole thing. Don't teach. Actually, it's more about learner's role than the teacher's role. Teachers has to be just a negotiator, not get involved in the learning process per se as in the traditional sense. In fact, they interact with each other, and they receive information, they process information in their own unique ways. So here's a summary of the core tenets of CLT. I'll share the slides with you, whoever wants to. For the time being, this is a synopsis of what, a summary of tenets of CLT is ambiguous and theoretically sound. Byrne, 1990, cited in Saringen, and then he actually come up with this idea of the whole concept of how many items weigh. So probably that has shed some light on the nitty-gritties and the nuances of how community competence can be infused in our students through various modes and means. Thank you so much. But still, I actually wanted to share that link. Probably. Okay. Do we have some time for the question answers or?
Well, you could always share your slides and okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Very deep, very helpful tips, and of course you could share the slides manually. With this, we come to the end of our morning sessions. Please stay tuned, and we will resume our sessions at 10 past 4. Thank you very much for your activities.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear participants. See you at 1:10. We begin our afternoon sessions as scheduled in the flyer and the program. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Hasti. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, everyone. See you in 10 minutes.
With this, we come to the end of this